everyone, and welcome again to the Lauren Musica Show. So honored to have you with me once again. I'm your host, Lauren Musica, attorney and human rights advocate, and my day-to-day is serving as president CEO of Sidewalk Advocates for Life, the nation's largest peaceful sidewalk outreach organization. By the way, if you haven't heard of us, we train, equip, and support people like you to go to their local abortion or abortion referral facility and help mothers get connected to those life-affirming, life-saving resources. And we do that without being weird or ugly or angry. We use people skills. Imagine that. They still matter when doing outreach at abortion facilities. But again, all sarcasm aside, it is paramount. It's so important when you're trying to reach the heart of a mother in crisis to use those people skills. They add up, they matter. 10 years in, because we've used those people skills, we are celebrating nearly 25,000 lives saved, 102 workers who have left the industry with the help and witness of a sidewalk advocate, and 58 facility closures. Because when you help enough mothers and you help enough workers leave the business, it drains abortion businesses and they have to close their doors. And I love that we do it the right way with the best weapons, so to speak, that we have, which is peace, prayer, and love. By the way, if you want to learn more about what we do, otherwise known as sidewalk advocacy, or fill out your call in the greatest human rights movement on earth, I hope you'll consider joining me at the Celebrate Life weekend at the end of June in Washington, D.C., marking the anniversary of the Dobbs decision that overturned the infamous Roe versus Wade court case. When you attend that weekend, June 27th through 29th, you can be part of our 3-day conference experience, rally at the Capitol, and/or Friday night gala. You can actually choose your own adventure that weekend, but I highly recommend that if you're going to make the trip to Washington, D.C., you do the full experience. It is so inspirational. We have so many people that come to us at the end of the weekend and say, this just lit me on fire. I am ready to go back home. I know now what to do to better save lives and to end abortion in my community and my state. So to get discount tickets before they run away, go to CelebrateLifeWeekend.com. Again, that's CelebrateLifeWeekend.com. I hope to see you there. Okay, for this hot take, I'm going to cut to the chase. I bet a lot of you are tuning in because the title of this hot take was kind of like, what? Like, did you just say that there's an abortion worker inside a facility that's doing sacrifices to Satan? And the answer is, yes, I did. Some of you may remember at the end of last season where I came to you in the middle of one of the podcasts and said, hey, somewhere in the country, there's a worker that our team is ministering to who told us, hey, the abortions in this facility are being lifted up as sacrifices to Satan. In fact, I remember asking our board member, Nate, who brought this to me. He's been working alongside a couple of our national team members. We've been working alongside Abby Johnson's abortion worker ministry, and then there were none to minister to this worker, right? So he brings this to me, and I say, what do you mean? Like, how are they doing that? And Nate was like, I think they're doing something with the fetuses. And I literally was like, stop. I don't want to know anything else. And I just had a moment where I was like, gosh, Lord, have mercy on us, right? And here's the crazy thing. This is not the first time that we have heard this. For those of us who work full-time in the pro-life movement, this is actually kind of common to hear about this in the abortion industry. We don't hear it from every abortion worker that we help, but we hear it enough that it would absolutely make your skin crawl. And if that doesn't say something about what abortion is, what does, what will? Anyway, I posted on Facebook last week that, hey, amazing news, our prayers are being heard, and this worker is making a plan to leave. And it was actually one of my law school friends, Karen, who posted underneath that post. And I want to say I'm so glad that she did. And she asked what no doubt many were already thinking. She asked something along the lines of, hey, can these people even be saved? I mean, what in the heck? Like, they're so deep into this evil. Like, what would make someone stay in a facility like that? And I actually thanked her for her question. I thanked her for being honest. And I answered in kind of a creative way by writing another Facebook post. In short, that post that I wrote in response to Karen, I let her know I was writing it, right? I was like, hey, you got to go read this, sister, right? That was one of the most shared posts I've ever written in the nearly 20 years that I've been on Facebook. It went viral. I want to go ahead and read it to you because, again, I just couldn't have said it any better than I said in that post, but I know many of you may have the same question. But first, I want to make a quick pit stop and give a shout out to our new administration for the pro-life executive actions and moves that they've made the first couple weeks of President Trump's term. This is worth a quick commercial, folks. I've got to rattle this off for you. This is so awesome, and I hope it continues. So here are the 8 things that President Trump has already done in just the first few weeks of being back in office. He's, number 1, enforced the Hyde Amendment, which ends forced taxpayer funding of abortion in the United States. Awesome. Number 2, he's reinstated the Mexico City policy, which ends taxpayer funding of abortion internationally. Again, common sense, right? Number 3, he pardoned 23 pro-lifers prosecuted under the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, otherwise known as the FACE Act, by the Biden administration. By the way, more about this in a second. I'm going to unpack this just a little bit more here in a second. Number 4, he promised us that the FACE Act will no longer be weaponized against pro-lifers and people of faith. Yay for not having a weaponized FBI and DOJ anymore. Number 5, issued a statement supporting the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. I believe that's now at this moment in the Senate, so looking forward to getting that signed. That, again, is common sense. Number 6, he had us rejoin the Geneva Consensus Declaration promoting women's health, life, and family issues around the world. Number 7, he sent a video message to the March for Life. I was at the March for Life a couple weeks ago. The rally always happens before the march, right? So we got to see this beautiful video message during the rally as we got ready to march. So awesome that our president took the time to do that from the Oval Office. And number 8, he sent his vice president, our new vice president, J.D. Vance, in person to make a speech at the March for Life. I was in the front row of the March for Life rally that happened here at the end of January, and I got to record Vice President Vance's speech. So I want to go ahead and share a quick excerpt of that, especially because I had my hand in the air for 14 to 15 minutes recording this awesome speech. So I want to play a clip of that for you right now.
Thank you. Good afternoon, marchers. Thank you for having me. And it is an honor to be standing with you here today for life. We are proud to march with you. And yes, we will be back next year. The excitement, the passion, the unwavering conviction that every single person here on the National Mall clearly feels. It is deeply moving to me and means more to President Trump and I than I could possibly say. For over a half century, this march has united tens of thousands of Americans from all walks of life to rally for the cause of life in our nation. It is the single largest gathering in the world to celebrate our movement, the victories we've fought so hard for, and yes, the victories yet to come. And I want to personally welcome all of you who traveled from far and wide to our nation's capital. Thank you for your dedication, and it is an incredible crowd, and it's great to see you today. Now, as you all know, the event theme this year is life, why we march. And there are obvious answers to the implicit question it poses. We march to protect the unborn. We march to proclaim and live out the sacred truth that every single child is a miracle and a gift from God. Now, each time Usha and I welcomed our own children into the world, we saw firsthand the indescribable beauty of new life, and yes, as you can see, sometimes the behavioral challenges that we had on Monday. They were good. And watching all 3 of our kids grow, learn, and become who they are today has been the single greatest blessing of our lives. Now, every parent here knows that feeling, that awe at a newborn child. It is our responsibility to cherish and to protect it. But thinking about the question of why we march, there are also some subtler, but equally more important answers to that question. that I want to reflect on today. Now, the task of our movement is to protect innocent life. It's to defend the unborn, and it's also to be pro-family and pro-life in the fullest sense of that word possible. Now, across my own lifetime, I can't tell you the number of friends and other acquaintances I've had who, facing a pregnancy or the prospect of one, react not with joy but with concern. They wonder, how can they afford it? What will it mean for their education, their career, their relationship, or their family? And I know how many of you in this crowd have devoted immeasurable time and resources to help answer those questions and to lend a hand to young people facing a moment of desperation. But by and large, our society, our country, has not yet stepped up in the way you have. And our government certainly has failed in that important responsibility. We failed a generation not only by permitting a culture of abortion on demand, but also by neglecting to help young parents achieve the ingredients they need to live a happy and meaningful life. A culture of radical individualism took root. One where the responsibilities and joys of family life were seen as obstacles to overcome, not as personal fulfillment or personal blessings. Our society has failed to recognize the obligation that one generation has to another is a core part of living in a society to begin with. So let me say very simply, I want more babies in the United States of America. I want more happy children in our country. And I want beautiful young men and women who are eager to welcome them into the world and eager to raise them. And it is the task of our government to make it easier for young moms and dads to afford to have kids, to bring them into the world, and to welcome them as the blessings that we know they are here at the March for Life.
Absolutely amazing, right? All right, really quickly, to follow up on number 3, the pardoning of the pro-lifers who were convicted under the FACE Act, and then I'm going to loop back around to that Facebook post that I was telling you about. We at Sidewalk Advocates for Life took an interesting position on this. We said, hey, this is a good thing, right? This is a good thing, but caution, what these folks did in an effort that day to save lives isn't really the best way to save lives. Like, it's not a method and approach that it has been proven to actually stop abortions in the short or the long term, right? So here's a quick statement I released on this via social media. I said, this is a specific group of people who broke the law by going onto abortion center property to stage protests or use bike locks, chains, and rope to try to stop abortions. This is a good thing, meaning the pardoning, right? This is a good thing from the standpoint that FACE is bad law, and it was used to inequitably go after pro-lifers instead of prosecuting pro-abortion people who had defaced pro-life pregnancy centers and churches, much less abortionists who are lining their pockets every day with the death of innocent children. However, I still caution everyone to remember that when it comes to saving lives at an abortion facility, this approach hasn't produced much fruit, especially as compared to prayer and sidewalk advocacy. We have a moral obligation when the lives of innocent children hang in the balance to do the most effective thing that will reach the heart of a mother in crisis before it's too late. That should always trump making a public statement. We can hold both right now. Celebrate that these pro-life individuals are no longer under a weaponized Biden administration, and still encourage people to do what is proven to keep us on the sidewalk and saves the most lives at abortion facilities, which ironically is working within our First Amendment rights. If you need help with training, check out sidewalkadvocates.org. We'd love to help. So there you go, right? Now, real quick, moving forward, there are 2 things that I hope President Trump will do as soon as possible. So that is, number 1, defund America's abortion empire, Planned Parenthood, guys, they get over $700 million in taxpayer funds each and every year, and they kill nearly 400,000 preborn babies every single year. I mean, this is unbelievable that we give them a penny of taxpayer funds. It is time to ask them to go fund themselves. I don't want one more dime going to this killing machine, right? And number two, we hope that President Trump will direct the FDA to revoke the approval of the abortion pill regimen and enforce restrictions on its distribution, not allowing it anymore to pour across our state borders via snail mail. So many women are getting this in the mail. They haven't even been examined by a doctor. We've got about 5% of women who take the abortion pill regimen ending up in the emergency room. Up to 7% need surgery due to complications. And that's translating to an estimated tens of thousands per year that are experiencing complications. Guys, if this were any other drug, the FDA would have pulled it by now. We could also get this done simply by choosing to enforce the Comstock Act, which doesn't allow interstate travel of abortion paraphernalia or abortion-inducing drugs. So please, 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 I encourage you to contact your elected representatives to ask them to do these things. We have pro-life control of the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate, so let's get this done. Okay, back to the main story here. So again, my friend Karen asks, can these abortion workers so deep into the evil of this industry even be saved? I thanked her for her question. I replied really quickly and said, over 700 workers have left the industry and come to Christ thanks to Abby Johnson's abortion worker ministry, and then there were none. But again, I went a bit deeper by making a whole other post on Facebook that went viral. So here's what I wrote. Trigger warning, if you're a woman or former worker still healing a lot from abortion. There's something Abby Johnson said at a dinner around the March for Life this past week that was really interesting. Then a friend asked this morning about what would compel someone to stay in an abortion facility with sacrifices to Satan going on. I wanted to answer that by sharing what Abby said and how I can relate to it being a sinner saved by God myself. Abby said, if you grew up in a good, God-fearing family, don't do anything you'd be embarrassed to tell your parents about. I didn't tell them I worked for Planned Parenthood for a year and a half. Dang, that hit me. She said the way many people get into the abortion industry is they start with one concession, then two. Then they're lukewarm. Then they make another concession. Then they turn into someone else altogether. That's how sin works. Abby said that after some time working in the abortion industry, her supervisor came to her and invited her to the Products of Conception lab, where they pieced aborted babies back together. This is standard in the industry to ensure that they successfully completed the abortion. She said that not just anyone was invited back there. It was considered an honor. She went back there, and there was a metal tray with a towel over it. She looked at Abby and said, "Are you ready?" Abby straightened up and said, "Yes." Her supervisor removed the towel, and Abby realized she had pieced back together a 13-week-old baby. Abby said she could see every part of that precious baby. She handed Abby a long pair of tweezers and said, "Go ahead, play with it." And Abby did, and said she didn't feel a thing. She turned to us at the dinner and said, "That's how sin works. That's what happens when we make concessions and we don't deal with our brokenness and pain. It deadens us." She said it was all those praying for her and the day the scales finally fell from her eyes that she saw what she was a part of, and that it was Jesus who offered to take her pain, anger, and dead heart and transform it. Abby is a new creation in Christ today. I can relate too. I may not have worked in the abortion industry, but I'm a very imperfect human being too. I have had times in my life where I made one concession after another, and I ended up in a place where I never dreamed possible. This is why we need Jesus to illuminate the darkness, to take our sin, and to transform every imperfect and hard thing and heal us through the power of his grace. So, before you're tempted to judge this abortion worker, pray for her. What she's doing is wrong, but it is not even remotely beyond God's grace. And remember that God can rescue and heal us too. Y'all, it just makes me so emotional to read that because I'm just realizing how broken we are without Jesus. How just far and deep we can go, how we can get so far away from him and we can wake up one day and say, who am I? What am I doing? What am I a part of? How could I not see how I was hurting someone else? Or I found myself in this pit. I just didn't even know how to climb out of it, right? And yet I look at all these former abortion workers who today are just a living witness of what God has done in their lives. So many of them have even abuse in their own background. You know, it's said that abortion is a choice, whether you've had one yourself or you've worked in the industry, it's just shrouded in trauma. The enemy comes in so often and like plays on our pain and our fear and our trauma. And he amplifies it over the goodness and the hope and the peace that Christ is offering to us. And so we tend to just indirectly, maybe we're not even meaning to do that, but we run towards that instead of running towards what is true and good and right and what can actually get us out of the pit, right? I'm just so thankful for our good God who came to show us the way, who by his life and passion, death and resurrection showed us the path forward. Following him is the only way out of this pit. And I don't know about you, but it's good news that I want to share with each and every person what God has done in my life to show me my sin, my brokenness. And I know that he can do that for you. He can take that and he can transform it. But we got to face it honestly. We got to bring it to the cross. And we got to say, Jesus, help me. I want to be made new. And he will do that. He will do that for you, just as he's done it for me and so many other workers. If this show moved your heart, I just want to encourage you to please, please, please share this podcast, because the point of this is to impact hearts and minds and eternal souls on this issue and much more, and ultimately bring people to the great physician. Thanks for listening. With that, I hope you guys will join me next Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central on the Sidewalk Advocates for Life Facebook page, YouTube channel, or wherever you get podcasts for the next Lauren Musica show. Thanks so much for joining me, everyone. Have a great week.